Okay, so the last part of our lab is making hydrogels that we're going to seed cells on top of. Okay, and so that's a little bit challenging because we need to sterilize. Nothing we've done so far is sterile, and if we're going to put cells on top of it, it needs to be sterile. And so what we're going to do with these, the gelatin and the agarose, is we're going to autoclave them. And so in order to autoclave, what you would do is for a bottle like this, we go ahead and put like some foil over the top, and we want to make sure that the top is loose, okay, so that some steam can escape when it gets really hot. The foil kind of protects stuff from going back inside. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and cover these both with foil to prepare for autoclave. And I'm going to put some autoclave tape on here to prove to us that it has reached temperature. So this is basically tape. When it is autoclaved correctly, there'll be some black lines that show up on the tape. And so now I can turn all these off. And we're going to go upstairs and show you how to autoclave. The gelatin, though, we're going to do something, the gelatin methacrylate, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to use basically a filter, a liquid filter to sterilize it. And I'll show you that when we get into the cell culture hood. This is an autoclave, and so it's a big beastly machine. I have our 2 little bottles in a little container that we can do. And so I'll just kind of show you how to use it. Normally this can be used for a lot of different things. It can be used mostly for like instruments, tools, you know, the 1.5 ml little microcentrifuge tubes that we sterilize, I sterilize in here. But there's also a way we can use liquids, and so there's a liquid cycle on here, and it's already set up for that liquid cycle. So I'm going to go ahead and open the door. And so it gets high pressure, high temperature, steam sterilization is how this works. And so this one is a pretty big, fancy autoclave compared to what others I've seen. So it actually uses this part, and you roll out this tray. I'm using my glove because this thing is super hot. And I'll just go ahead and put my stuff in. I know it seems pretty excessive for just those 2 little bottles, but this is what we have. I close the door using the button. All right, so it tells me the door closed and it's ready. Normally you could like select a cycle that you want, right? And so there's different cycles on the list. Pre-vac, let's go down. Gravity, liquid. So liquid is the one I use for this case. And so I hit enter on that to make sure it says, okay, exposure time for 30 minutes, exposure temp for 121 degrees C. That's correct. So like if I did one of these, just to show you how it works, I hit enter on that. Right, so it's exposure time 30 minutes, exposure temp 121, drying time 15 minutes. Okay, and so that's for non-liquids, where it will like try to evaporate as much of the steam as it can. Whereas if you have liquids in there, you don't want it to like evaporate your stuff, so it doesn't do this drying time. So we're going to go down and choose liquids, hit enter. Okay, we got what we want, and I'll hit OK. And now we hit the start button. Okay, so it's in our start, it's in this purge phase, and it says we have 65 minutes remaining. So it's fine, I'll come back in 65 minutes and we'll come get our stuff back out. But now we need to move to the gelatin methacrylate. And so what I need to do for the gelatin methacrylate is first I need, somewhere I have my photoinitiator buffer in here, first I need to sterile filter it. Right, because it wasn't sterilized at all. So we're going to use a syringe top filter to sterile filter into one of these. And so the first thing I'm going to filter is the photoinitiator buffer. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and crank this thing all the way up. Okay, the important thing to remember here is We do need to be sterile after it gets filtered, but before it's filtered, we're not so much concerned, right? So, in other words, this syringe, what's inside the syringe, well, we're going to try to keep it not sterile, we're trying to keep it sterile, but what's really important is what comes out of our syringe top filter, right? And so I'm going to show you how this works. First, I'm going to go ahead and take off my thing. I just put it off to the side. Again, that's not what we care about being sterile. Okay, what we care about being sterile is this end of the filter that we're going to stick into our tube, right? Because that filter will not allow any bacteria through it. So it's going to be tricky. I'm going to try to balance that. I'm going to use my 1 ml pipetter to collect all the remaining photoinitiator buffer I have. It might be easier if I can see it, so I'll just take this off for now. Okay, not a lot, but it's a little more than 1. Put that in there, suck up the rest. Okay, and now I'm just going to push it through our sterile filter. And eventually you get to the point where the filter becomes clogged and it's done pushing. And so there's our photoinitiator buffer, right? And so I'm going to tear off some of my stuff there, and I'm going to wrap it up.